sir. Cheers.
Nippy today, isn't it?
It is a little cold. It's a
Yeah.
little cold. Yeah. What's the temperature like in Napa?
Oh, we are probably 60, something like that.
Yeah.
It feels really cold.
Yes, Sonoma County too. I have my fireplace on in my office. That's how it's like one of those days. Yeah. And I poured myself a glass of wine and I'm happy, right? I'm very happy. So Wine Wednesday. Well, cheers, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish you were right here in the cellar, but today we had to record this on Zoom, right? So, but it's okay. It's
Okay.
beautiful. So
We'll make it
it
happen.
exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
And as a good friend of ours says, the breakfast of champions. Starting off the morning with I had coffee and now I'm having our beautiful Puy Foussé, which is the bottle we're going to talk about today. Is that right? On France in a Glass.
Oh. From one of my favorite producer, you treated me to this before. This producer, I should say, Louis Jadot.
Yeah. Yep.
Fairly big operation in Burgundy, but performing at a level of where all the portfolio, all the SKUs, different wines are really, really worth seeking out. So a good example of larger production doesn't necessarily mean less quality. So very, very good pick. I'm happy that you chose this one.
I know, because this is the second bottle we're getting from this producer for our France in a Glass series that we're doing together. And the other one was the Chablis, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Chablis?
Yeah.
And this one is a 2022. Just looking at the
Yep.
vintage again. I don't know if you guys can see with my Zoom thing. But anyway, Puy Foussé, Louis Jadot, from Burgundy, does really good stuff, like Henrik said. Large producer, but unusually well priced and tastes great at the same time. So we thought we'd break this down for you, kind of talk about what the area is, where we are, what are we tasting, what can we pair it with. So let's start with this. Where is Puy Foussé? Um,
Yeah.
and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so we are back in Burgundy in France. I know there's a lot of talk about Burgundies, and most people are a little intimidated, a little scared away. And needless to say, that is because of certain price points for the very top level of wines from there. That being said, there is actually a lot of good wines bargain priced coming out of Burgundy. And this specific region that we are exploring today, the Pouilly-Fuissé, that's part of a bigger area called Mâconnais. And Mâconnais received their AOC classification back in 1936. It's Pouilly-Fuissé. It's a region within Mâconnais. It is strictly Chardonnay being grown there or released under the Pouilly-Fuissé labels. And what is kind of strange is that it was only in 2020 that that region got its first Premier Cru levels. And that's a stretch from 1936 all the way up to 2020 before they literally went in and said there's certain areas in this growing region that requires or justificates a certain Premier Cru level. So I'm fascinated at a very decent price point. And then you know better the price than I do on this one, but
Yeah, this one, so a couple of things. The price, so we're in California, whoever's listening to this. I picked this up from Total Wine here for around, I think it was $28. Not very expensive. Again, just uh going back to what Henrik just said, who Henrik is a winemaker in Napa. I'm a somm in Sonoma County. And between us, we love to kind of bring different aspects to the conversation. You're going to talk about how this is made. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about what we're pulling, tasting. But Puy Fusé, we'll talk about more about where it is exactly, the Burgundy style. But you find this as a bottle of Chardonnay, right? Because it's 100% Chardonnay, in California for around 28 to 30 bucks. It's not going to have, and again, we're not bashing, right? Because we talked about Chablis. We're not bashing the creamy, buttery styles of Chardonnay, which seem to be California does have some. Um, these are more kind of leaner, I would say. They spend this Puy Fusé, for example, spends about 60% of its time in stainless steel, and about 40% of its time it does actually sit in oak barrels. So it does have more texture, which is very nice. It just completes it, allows it to pair really well with some foods that we're going to talk about. And Henry, Puy Fusé, uh, bring us into the map of Burgundy. Where is it? What's the climate like over there?
Well, Pouilly-Fuissé as part of the pure in Burgundy region. If we start from the very top, you have Chablis. And then as you move down, you have the Côte de Nuit, the Côte de Beaune. Those two regions are classified together as Côte d'Or, the golden slopes. And then Côte de Chalonnaise. Then further down south, that's where we find Mâconnais. And then if we go all the way to the Beaujolais. So if you're looking at a map of France, you are literally between the Dijon and Lyon. So it's a fairly large area when you're taking everything into consideration, but when you split it up, so the Mâconnais region that we are in here, or area, I mean, we're roughly talking 1,870 acres, give or take. And what separates France from, say, California winemaking is that in France you have some requirements, you have some minimum production or maximum production levels. So in Mâconnais you have what they will list as 40 hectoliters per hectare. Translated gallons, you are roughly looking at 530 gallons per acre. And 530 gallons, that's roughly 10 barrels. So kind of the yields that we are seeing in California. So fascinating about this area is that if you go back to the classifications back in everything is determined for a reason. So you have some soil types in literally dating back to the Jurassic period. So we're talking soils that are 150 to 2 old.
Oh.
And needless to say, that gives something unique to the wines.
Right. And the Mâconnais, which is its own little section in the south of Burgundy, um, is more limestone and clay soil. Is that correct?
So if we go again to the very north, the Chablis, maybe not in spitting distance of Champagne, but we have somewhat close proximity to Champagne. A lot of the French word is calcaire. It's chalk, chalk stone. in the soils, and that allows the vines for their roots to really penetrate deep into the subsoils. Um, that's something that adds structure. It adds personality to the wines and the grapes being produced there, and with specifically with Pouilly Fuissé being 100% Chardonnay region, I think that shows. Another thing about the winemaking that maybe separates, if we should compare it to Chablis, Chablis is the say a little bit more leaner style. It's often made in 100% stainless steel fermentation vats, versus this Pouilly Fuissé, which, like you mentioned, Nilu, is a little bit of oak aging to it. So that kind of rounds out the style a little bit. It's a little bit more, has a little bit more body on the palate than, say, a more stringent, more racy, acidic. So
Right.
there's of course always outliers, and there will be producers in Pouilly Fuissé that goes into joke, and there will also be some that makes it in 100% stainless steel. But I think they do tend to barrel age their wines a little bit.
Yeah. You maybe to hold on to it a little bit longer, no? I mean, yes, we're going with this apple, pear, fruity, fresh and fruity kind of vibe, but you could potentially hold on a little bit longer, because it has sat in some oak, I would think. And so,
Yeah, and I think to that point,
uh,
this is a very versatile wine. For me, I mean, this can both be enjoyed by itself, like a little sip.
for sure.
Really also goes well with a with a lot of different.
Yeah.
But it can certainly also match a lot of different dishes.
Mm.
So very versatile. You can pair it with something that can benefit from the crisp acidity that it has. So some feta cheeses would come to mind, but certainly also something a little bit more sturdy, say an Asian chicken salad, some sesame toasted notes in there would pair very well with such a beautiful wine here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree completely. It's elegant. It's got that acidity, little bit of lemon zesty flavors. I also pick up the apple, a little bit of pear. But on the mouthfeel, you've got a little texture, which is really nice. So you can use and kind of pair it with richer foods, like you said, maybe some nice cheese, maybe some brie even. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. It's starting to make me want to run to the store. Um, but also a little bit of fresh honey comes through for me. So again, the taking what you pick up maybe in the wine and then pairing it with the right food. People talk about pairings, and it's like, honestly, it's what you enjoy, right? I mean, I'm gonna just throw that out there. We always talk about the basics. We talk about, look, this is what you pair, this is what you're picking up, so try and find food that goes well with it. Again, you could do some oysters, some seafood, maybe with a little bit of cream sauce on it. Wow, I think that would be absolutely delightful. So this is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important also to for your audience to be comfortable with wine and food pairing. So
Mhm.
I always like to say there's no right and wrong in this business. There's just personal perception, and whatever you feel is the best match. That go with that. So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with saying having a white wine and steak together. That those can complement each other. So
Exactly. There is no right or wrong. And I think it's honestly what you love. The one thing I was honestly dreaming about, or I don't know if I was dreaming or woke up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, we got to talk about. This is called Puy Foussé. And again, we said it's in southern Burgundy, so kind of in the middle of France. And we're talking Chardonnay. Okay. Now there is another word called Puy Fume, or two words. Um, and we just want to kind of mention that Puy Fume is in the Loire Valley, and they make Sauvignon Blanc. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. And there's always or often a confusion between the Pouilly Fuissé that we are tasting today, and then, as you mentioned, the Pouilly Fumé. And then to even further complicate it, if we are in the Loire Valley, they have something called Pouilly sur Loire, and those wines are actually made on a varietal called Chasselas. So this is something that you get into once you get a little geeky, but I think that's the beauty of France, that you have all these different regions and they have signature grapes and yeah, great wines coming out of Loire Valley,
Yeah.
Sauvignon Blanc based, as you mentioned, and then you have Pouilly Fuissé here, 100% Chardonnay. And yeah, they couldn't be more different, but they are in their own rights. They are beautiful, wonderful wines.
Love it. That's a great way to explain it. Now, you are a winemaker in Napa and you've got your own label called Release, and it's a Cabernet Sauvignon. You know your stuff. You make some exceptional wines. And when it comes to labels, why are we getting so confused between the French labels and the American or Napa, whatever, labels? Why is it so confusing to read this? I'm in the store and I'm like, what the hell is this? It's got Puy Fusé or Chablis or this or that. What are these bottles?
Well, I mean, I think that's the biggest difference. Domestic wines and then imported wines that often from overseas, Europe, wherever it be, you literally have to know the region to figure out what grapes are used in that region. So, I mean, Italy, Chianti doesn't mean anything to anybody unless you know that the grape used there is Sangiovese. So you have the same in Spain. Rioja, it can be Tempranillo, the varietal, but it doesn't say on the label, and I think that's yeah, again, that's probably the biggest difference between domestic wines, where it's often listed as Chardonnay or Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot, and that kind of helps people in choosing their wines a little bit more easy when it's domestic. But again, it's once you get into to our level of nerdiness, if I may use that
Right.
word,
Yeah.
uh, that's kind of when we peel the layers and
Yeah.
we dive into these regions and find out what is behind the label.
Exactly, exactly. When you're studying for these certifications or classes, it kind of becomes overwhelming because you're trying to do it in a short amount of time. You're like, "Oh my God, I'm going to get tested on this." And I'm just like so confused unless you're going to those locations. I feel like every time I travel to Europe and I stop at these places and taste, it suddenly sticks in my head and I can get it, and it's a slow process, right? But I think this is why I love this series that we're doing, you and I are doing, because we're taking it and making it super simple. We're not gonna go into that depth level of, a song this or that, or W said that. We're just like, hey, if you're somebody either traveling to France right now, and want to order some wine, or you're walking into your local Safeway or Vons or whatever, you potentially walk down the aisle, it says France. Okay, and you want to try something different or you want to impress your girlfriend, pick up these bottles, well priced, kind of fun to play with and see the difference between old, not old world, but kind of, you know, yeah, I guess old world, um, and how we make it in California, the new world. And I think it's just a fresh and fruity, vibrant, beautiful bottle of wine. And the price, what do you think, Henrik, about the price? 28-ish? It's not bad, huh?
No, I actually I think it's somewhat of a bargain. I mean, the wine is very, very expressive, and I think that strikes me now that I have had it opened in the glass for a little bit. It has this hint of what's called reduction. And reduction is something that occurs or can occur during the winemaking process. If it's maintained in smaller quantities, I think it really adds to the wine's overall quality. Um, if it goes too much, it can kind of ruin the wine. But I think it's beautifully done with this wine, and again, it just it brings an different dimension or another dimension to the wine that for the price point of $28 is I have difficulties finding Chardonnay from Napa these days that I really say that's going to be a stunning bargain because we do make fantastic Chardonnay in Napa, no doubt about it. But at $28, that's going to be a tough find to find something that is at this level. I have to be honest.
100%, I agree with you. I don't think I've seen a Chardonnay in Napa. You probably wouldn't even find it in Sonoma County unless you're at Trader Joe's and you know what you're looking for. Um, but you said reduction. Can you, for our listeners, because California Tastings is all about making it easy for people coming into the wine world, whether we're teaching the wine classes or whatever we're doing. What is reduction? How does that come into play?
Yeah,
For the
excellent question.
winemaker?
So sorry I didn't specify that, but the reduction phase during fermentation is if the yeast that is fermenting sugar into alcohol is deprived of oxygen. So the other side or the opposite side of reduction would be oxidation. And that's where the yeast has seen too much oxygen. But specifically with reduction, it gives certain flavors, certain notes on, most often on the nose, not so much on the palate. Um, and those flavors can range anywhere from, say, like bruised apples to gunflint, gunpowder, kind of like an earthiness. I'm personally a big fan of these slightly reductive wines because I think they also have a tendency to age very well. So over time, if you say stick this bottle in your cellar and forget about it for the next 10 years, I think if you pop it in 2036, you'll actually have a wine that is still super, super enjoyable.
I can't, believe that when I picked this up, it was a 22. We're 2026 right now in April, and it's tasting fabulous. It's tasting fabulous. So, again, going back to the fact that what you said, holding its own, kind of aging beautifully. Uh, the other thing I wanted to ask you, um, was do you think this would pair well with a risotto, like a mushroom risotto? Because that was coming up in my head right now.
There you go. I mean, I should have suggested that the creaminess, that slightly earthiness from mushrooms, that would be an ideal match. It's
Gosh,
shoot.
yeah.
Now I'm getting super hungry.
See, we haven't had breakfast yet. We've had coffee, and then we've had the breakfast of champions, which is this beautiful glass of wine. But risotto, yeah, man. Because you talked about the flinty, earthy, then I'm thinking a little bit of creamy. Okay, boom. This would be absolutely delightful with this bottle. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And the climate in southern Burgundy is warmer than northern Burgundy, where Chablis is. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the further north you go, the colder temperatures. So in Mâconnais, you have a fairly ideal climate. The region itself, it's situated a little bit on hillsides, so you have some lower slopes. You have the very top of the hills. They're not super high in elevation per se, give or take a couple hundred feet. But within that range, you will have very different aspects of the different vineyards, and also the regulations that are in France. It's you have. No premier cru vineyards that have north-facing vineyards. So it all has to be east-facing, and that gives a more opulent style of wine, and there's a reason for that. So I mean, these regions have been planted to grapes for many hundreds years, and it's not without reason that the monks that started planting vines in the region of Burgundy, they knew what they were doing, and of course learned over time and found out that there's a certain level that justifies Premier Cru, and then there's stunning sites that takes us all the way up to the highest level, the Grand Cru.
Yeah. And the other thing to mention is Burgundy, you said at the beginning, golden slopes, right? So they call it golden slopes for a specific reason. In Europe, we all know the weather is a little bit cooler, obviously. Um, and so these grapes need to ripen somehow. So they're planting them on these hillsides facing where the sun's coming, right? And so then they can get the potential heat that they need to ripen. So it's unbelievable how climate affects the whole everything, the
Yeah,
taste,
no,
the
it's
grapes, the
definitely
wine. Yeah.
definitely fascinating, and I think also many visitors, first-time visitors to say either Bordeaux or Burgundy, they will notice that the trellis system that is employed in say both Burgundy and Bordeaux, that keeps the vines very close to the ground. Yeah, over in California, we have some fairly high trellis system, and you will have the fruit zone situated probably a yard from the ground. But in France, especially, you want it closer to the ground because the soil retains the warmth of the sun during the day, and that slowly releases that overnight. So it's a
Love that.
somewhat consistent temperature in the fruit zones. And that especially is very pronounced in the further south you go in France. So down in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, you will literally have rocks out in the vineyards that heat up over the day and then releases this warmth to the vines during the nights. And
It's
so
incredible. Oh, in my opinion, I mean, I'm always blown away. Even Mosel, like you're talking Germany, the Mosel River, it just blew my mind how they had planted these vines up the two sides of the river, and then they've got these rocks and this and that, and they basically want the sun to hit the water, and then it bounces back up and hits the boulders and the rocks and this and that, and it warms up the soil. And you're saying that's happening with the Rhone Valley as well, which is actually on that map kind of. You've got Beaujolais, and then you've got Lyon, and then you've got the Rhone Valley starting. Is that correct?
yeah, exactly. So
Incredible.
yeah, it's I mean, vines are grown in nature, and you have to take advantage of nature. There's you can't really change nature, but you can definitely take advantage of it. So to your point about the wines from the Mosel, when you see some of those vineyards and when you walk the rows, it's a struggle. It's a real work Some of them are so steep that do not miss a step because you will fall to the ground and you will roam down the hill. So these are super steep. And again, that gives you better sun exposure because if you are on a slope, you will have the rays from the sun um, literally hitting each of the clusters on each of the rows versus a flat land where you will have shade from one row over to the next one. And yeah, that's something that they have developed over hundreds of years, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's fascinating.
It really is, and you said it correctly with the fact that Mother Nature is Mother Nature. You could lose a whole crop at the beginning, or you could figure out, which they have strived to do. With the weather up and down, and strive to get the maximum sunlight and get that into the soil and warm it up, and it's pretty fascinating what happens in growing vines and then from there getting this beautiful juice into the bottle that we get to drink. And when we say $28 for this bottle, it's like it went through a whole life, it went through a whole process that was unreal to get into this bottle. So it's always fascinating for me to
No, and it is for me. I mean, my daily day gigs are winemaking, but I'm still fascinated when I open a bottle of something that I'm unfamiliar with. That speaks to you. It's when you dive into it, you can say, "Wow!" You educate yourself on where it's grown from. The vintage, of course, is a major impact on the wine style. But just diving into where that was grown, whether the vines were hillside or more valley floor, and and I think that expressions that comes from the land, that's something that I'm really fascinated by because I think there will always be winemakers that excuse my French here, but that will put their thumbprint on a wine, and I think that's doing disfavor to winemaking because I don't think that you as a consumer should taste the winemaker. You should taste the varietal, you should taste the vineyard, and you should taste the vintage. So letting nature take care of what it's best at, and then you as a winemaker should guide the style of wine rather than overpowering with your personal
I love that you're saying that, Henrik, because I feel like in the new world, so definitely America's part of that. We do talk about the winemakers so much, and we emphasize it when we're selling a bottle of wine. And I think in France, honestly, they don't, right? I mean, obviously they talk about the producer, but I don't know if I told you this story. I think I said it when we were talking about Chablis. I volunteered at this event in San Francisco, and it was bizarre because I love Louis Jadot. And I ended up, they all gave each person, each saw them a table to assist the producer. I was given Louis Jadot. I mean, it was weird. And this whole thing was about Burgundy, the thing. And so I was next to one of the grandsons that runs the business right now, for Louis Jadot. And he had three Premier Crus, one Grand Cru on the table. And I said to him, okay, do you want me to tell them what it tastes like and what we're picking up? And he's like, no, 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 you just, no, you say Premier Cru and you talk about Fissin, for example, right? And you talk about that vineyard, that location, that exact spot. The next bottle is this, this, this. And that day was an eye opener for me because they don't do what we do in California, working in wineries, running tasting rooms, running wineries. We talk about that stuff. We talk about who the winemaker is. We talk about, what you're picking up right now is this, this. They don't want to talk about that. They're like, this is where it is. This is where it's situated. Location, terroir, this and that. and the rest you pick up what you're going to pick up.
Very spot on, and that's an ideology that I can 200% vouch for. Um, I think again to my point, wine should be an expression of where it's grown, the varietal and the vintage. It shouldn't be so much of an expression of the winemaker and what he was going for. So we we we. We shouldn't take ourselves too seriously as winemakers. And again, one of my pet peeves, if I may say so, is often the use of oak in winemaking. There's been a tendency for winemakers to say everything needs to go into 100% new French oak, medium toasted barrels, and so on. And when you start to dig into the philosophy behind aging wine in barrel, it actually stems back several hundred years, where the only vessel that you had to transport your wine in was actually a barrel. So that's kind of how barrels snuck into to the winemaking, and I think people, customers, wine fans have grown accustomed to this taste of oak in their wines, and I think that's not necessarily always for the good. A wine that is fermented 100% in stainless steel, like say a Californian Sauvignon Blanc, that can be a fantastic wine. Racy acidity, it's just pure fruited in the nose, and it shouldn't be overshadowed by whatever complements a barrel can bake to the wine. So
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny because I'm 100% agreement with the way that you make wine, because I think you obviously, you're from you're from Denmark. Yeah.
correct.
And so you're bringing some of the old world style of winemaking into your label release. And that's why, again, I'm very much into that style. Your Cabernet Sauvignon really stands out for me. And I think this style, again, emphasizing all the things we just talked about. Um, Anyway, it's at the end of the day, it's what you enjoy. But I agree with you. I really do. I love that style that you're talking about. Um, and Henrik, a couple of seconds, just want to ask you, we're in April 2026. What is happening with the vines in Napa? How are they looking? Are the babies out? What's happening?
Also, it's been a little bit of a dry year for us so far. Almost no precipitation in January and February, and that has kind of kept soil temperature a little bit on the cooler side. And what that does, it kind of keeps the vines in dormancy for a little bit longer than usual. So I say we're probably 1 to 2 weeks behind an average growing season. We've seen our fair share of rain then as we hit March. We had a couple big systems in there. Also here in April, we've seen a couple of weather events or rain events. And at this point, we're not really concerned about any threats out in the vineyards, because we have seen bud break. And what's the next hurdle for us in viticulture will be the bloom or the fruit sets. And if we do see cold temperatures or rainy events during bloom, that can have a negative effect on the yields and the fruit sets, which will eventually turn into grape clusters. So we're kind of a little bit in a holding pattern, and yeah, not that there's a dull day in winemaking,
Right.
but we are kind of just yeah, keeping an eye out on the vineyards and how they perform.
Very nice. Thank you for that update on Napa. I think we should always finish off just getting your view on what's going on with Napa, because you're there obviously and you're working. So that's an awesome addition for us. I don't think I have anything else to say about this bottle. I think it's a really nice bottle. Anything else you want to add to it?
No, again, I just encourage everybody listening out there to explore as many different styles of wine as you can, and never be intimidated by maybe picking up a bottle that you don't know what it is. But so if you see, say, this bottle of Pouilly Fuisses, hopefully now you know that it is 100% Chardonnay, and it is a great wine for the price. But if the bottle next to it on the shelf is something that intrigues you, grab it and explore. That's what we're here for, and
Yeah.
to enjoy wine and educate ourselves.
Yeah, no, exactly what you said. And you can always reach out to us. Um, Henrik is Release Wines, and I am CaliforniaTastings.com. And you can always reach out for questions, events, whatever we can help with, we will try to make it happen. Thank you, Henrik, as always. I know you're super busy. Usually we do these the French series in the cellar, but both of us were so busy that we're like, let's just jump on a Zoom really quick. So I really appreciate you making time, Henrik. As always, interesting uh, and just outstanding information. You're just so amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Pour.
You know where to find me, and when you're treating me with Burgundy like this, I am available anytime. So
I
cheers to you, Nina.
that.
And cheers to everybody who's listening out there. I hope you have been gained a little bit of knowledge about the Pouilly Fuisses from the Burgundy region, and hopefully you'll grab a bottle off the shelf next time you see it.
Thank you, Henrik. Thank you for all that information, which was absolutely fabulous. Appreciate you. And again, we're California Tastings. We teach wine classes. We do mixology events, workshops. Please look us up. We're in Sonoma County, but we travel. So we'd love to be at your next corporate event. And yeah, find us on Instagram and also on YouTube.
Thanks for watching and listening. This is Beyond the Pour by California Tastings. Here for all your somm needs in California. To listen to other episodes, you can find us on YouTube and all the platforms where podcasts are played. Be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know what you enjoyed about the episode. We can't wait to hear from you soon. Cheers.